It's more than a logo. It's the symbol of victory, ambition, and athletic greatness. Nike's Swoosh is one of the most valuable pieces of intellectual property on the planet. It's an icon that has inspired millions to just do it. But what if I told you that for years, this very symbol was used to do something else entirely? To legally make billions of dollars in profits disappear from the countries where they were earned and reappear in a place with a tax rate of 0.
This is the story of how Nike, a master of branding and marketing, applied that same genius to mastering the global tax system. It's a playbook that has allowed them to slash their global tax rate from nearly 35% to as low as 13.2%, accumulate over $12 billion in offshore profits taxed at less than 2%, and in some recent years pay absolutely nothing in U.S. federal income tax. And the most shocking part? It was all meticulously planned, government-approved, and, according to Nike, perfectly legal. So how did they do it? To understand, you have to understand the power of an idea.
The entire strategy is built on one core concept: weaponizing intellectual property. For a company like Nike, the brand is everything. The swoosh, the trademarks, the patents, that's where the real value is. So the playbook is simple. Step 1. Legally separate that valuable IP from the rest of the company. Step 2. Park the ownership of that IP in a subsidiary located in a tax haven, like Bermuda, where the corporate tax rate is 0. Step 3. The Nike companies that actually sell shoes in high-tax countries like the UK, France, and Germany now have to pay massive royalty fees to the Bermuda shell company for the right to use their own logo. In Europe, these royalty payments are a tax-deductible expense. They magically shrink the profits made from selling billions of dollars worth of shoes, slashing the tax bill there. The money, now called royalty income, flows out of Europe and piles up untaxed in Bermuda. This is the heart of the scheme. The value of the swoosh isn't created on a beach. It's created by thousands of employees designing and marketing the products. But the profits end up with a legal entity that often has no employees and no real economic activity. And for nearly a decade, this system worked flawlessly. The first act of this financial drama ran from 2005 to 2014. It was a tale of two locations. First, the Netherlands, which served as the gateway. Nike consolidated all its European sales revenue at its headquarters in Hilversum. This was all made possible by a crucial 10-year tax ruling from Dutch authorities, which essentially gave Nike the green light for what was to come. And what came next was the black hole, Bermuda. The profits, now pooled in the Netherlands, were systematically drained away as royalty payments to a Bermudan subsidiary called Nike International Ltd. The 2017 Paradise Papers leak blew the lid off this arrangement, revealing that this Bermudan company had no actual staff or offices on the island. It was managed by executives back at Nike's global headquarters in Oregon. Nike even had a dozen subsidiaries in Bermuda, with brazen names like Nike Cortez and Nike Pegasus, not because they were selling shoes there, but because they were legal shells designed to hold IP and receive untaxed cash. The scale was staggering. Between 2010 and 2012 alone, nearly $4 billion flowed to Bermuda. By the time the Dutch deal was set to expire in 2014, Nike had amassed $6.6 billion offshore, taxed at a tiny 3% rate. But the clock was ticking. With the agreement ending and global regulators starting to crack down on obvious tax havens, Nike needed a new plan, a more sophisticated one.
In 2014, Nike pivoted. Advised by top law firms, they transferred the ownership of the swoosh and other IP from Bermuda to a new entity in the Netherlands, Nike Innovate CV. The CV is the secret ingredient. It stands for Commanditaire Vennootschap. a type of Dutch limited partnership that, when used cleverly, can create a perfect tax vacuum. It works because of something called a hybrid mismatch. The Netherlands and the United States look at this same company and see two completely different things. Dutch law says a CV is transparent, meaning the profits just pass through to its partners. And if those partners are outside the Netherlands, the Dutch don't tax it. But U.S. tax law sees the CV as a regular company and says its profit should be taxed where it's legally based, in the Netherlands. The result? The Netherlands says, not our tax, and the U.S. says, not our tax. The income becomes stateless. It has no tax home anywhere in the world. Nike wasn't alone. This was a popular loophole for U.S. multinationals, but it was incredibly effective. The royalty payments just changed their mailing address from Bermuda to this new, taxless Dutch entity. And the offshore cash pile kept growing, reaching a staggering $12.2 billion by 2017, all taxed at a foreign rate of less than 2%.
But you can't move this much money around without attracting attention. The empire began to strike back. In January 2019, the European Commission launched a formal, in-depth investigation. Their argument wasn't just about loopholes, it was about fairness. They claimed the Netherlands gave Nike illegal state aid by approving tax deals that didn't reflect economic reality. Regulators pointed out the obvious. How can a company with over 1,000 employees in the Netherlands, actively building the brand's value, be paying almost all its profits to a related company with 0 employees? Nike fought back, trying to get the investigation annulled. But in July 2021, the U.S. General Court dismissed their appeal, and the investigation continues. Back in the U.S., the IRS was also taking a closer look. In 2016, Nike settled a dispute over $250 million in tax deficiencies. The IRS targeted a Bermuda-based partnership named Nike Pegasus, alleging it was improperly allocating foreign tax credits to artificially lower its U.S. tax bill. And the pressure isn't just on corporate income tax. More recently, reports have emerged that Nike faces potential fines of over $500 million for allegedly misclassifying thousands of temporary workers as independent contractors, another way to potentially reduce payroll tax obligations.
Nike's strategy, while brilliant in its execution, wasn't unique. It was part of a common playbook used by many of the world's biggest multinational companies, especially in tech and pharmaceuticals. Apple's infamous double Irish with a Dutch sandwich was built on the same principles. This has ignited a fierce global debate about the difference between what is legal and what is ethical. Nike consistently states it fully complies with all tax regulations. But critics argue that exploiting the letter of the law to violate its spirit creates a two-tiered system where the public and small businesses pay their share while multinationals play by a different set of rules. For a brand that has built its identity on fairness and social progress, the contradiction is stark. But the game is changing. The sheer scale of this global tax avoidance forced the world's governments to act. The OECD's BEPS project is a global effort to rewrite the rules, aiming to ensure profits are taxed where value is actually created. New measures like a global minimum corporate tax are designed to put an end to the race to the bottom and make the tax haven model obsolete. The era of the stateless company may be coming to an end. Nike's tax playbook was a masterclass in exploiting a 20th century tax system. But as regulators around the world finally catch up, the question is whether the rules of the 21st century can finally tether the world's most iconic logo back to reality.
So the next time you see that iconic swoosh, remember the story we just told. A story of billions of dollars, stateless companies, and a global system that for years allowed profits to vanish into thin air. This isn't just an accounting lesson. When multinational giants legally avoid paying their fair share, That missing revenue has to be made up somewhere. It affects the funding for our schools, our infrastructure, and the public services we all rely on. It creates a two-tiered system where the rules are different for the most powerful. If you believe these stories need to be told, that transparency is crucial, then take 1 second and hit that like button. It tells the algorithm that this conversation matters and pushes it out to more people who need to hear it. And if you know someone who loves their Air Jordans or just bought a new pair of running shoes, share this video with them. Spreading this knowledge is the most powerful tool we have to demand accountability. Finally, if you want to keep uncovering the hidden playbooks of the world's biggest corporations, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. We're just getting started, and you won't want to miss what's next. Thanks for watching. Stay curious.